is a company that is building communities that are affordable and sustainable. And with me is Lakshmi Narayanan, or Lucky, a little easier to say, who is a managing partner for Homz, serial entrepreneur, impact investor. Let's just start with Homz since we're focusing on it today, Lakshmi. What is the company all about?
Thanks, Jen, for having me here. Let me say, starting by pronouncing my name, just to make you comfortable. Yeah, I have a complicated name, I know that one. My full name is Lakshmi Narayanan Ramanujam.
Oh, goodness.
But I shorten it, or I can say it's become Lakshmi Narayanan. But when it comes to western part of the world, my friends call me as Lucky. That's how they pronounce my name. Yeah, that's one part of that one. Homz, what we are doing is we are building a national housing company. If you look at the whole United States for the last 50, 100 years, historically, housing has been an everlasting problem. If you can go back and look, every political campaign that has been run for the last 30 years, housing has been on one of the important mandates. They have been talking, we want to address the housing. And in the current scenario, the COVID has made worse. And homelessness has become a very, very critical issue at this junction. We believe, and as a philosophy, it's everyone's birthright to have a roof above their head. It's everyone's birthright. It's also an aspiration for everyone to have a home. But it's also a need. If you look at the Maslow's hierarchy theory, as a basic requirement, housing, the shelter, clothing, food plays an important role. And we want to help people to fulfill their aspiration of having a roof above them. So that's what Homz is all about. So what we do is we want to build across the country, across the United States, in all the 50 states. We want to build initially on phase one, 60 to 75,000 homes. When I use this word homes, we talk about two things. It includes a majority of the multifamily and also single family homes. But the uniqueness is this is built as an affordable and it's given as a build to rent communities. So anybody who occupy these homes, as per the average median income in every state, the rental rate will differ, but it's a fully affordable renting communities.
And so what is the solution in building the homes, and then why hasn't this been implemented yet?
So the biggest challenge we have been talking is affordability. But the right thing is it's not about affordability. We look at it, there are 4 A's: affordability, accessibility, availability, and attainability. So everybody is chasing, I would say, a goose called affordability. There are homes built, but they are not in an accessible zone. There is no proper infrastructure. So you have to identify those locations, and then you have to make sure it is accessible. The second aspect is, very, very critical aspect is here is attainability, right? For example, you go and build homes in California, but the cost of living in California is, you can say I have built very, very affordable homes. The homes are in the center of the city, and you get paid not as per the Californian standard. The cost of living is very, very high. I may have a home which is affordable, but I cannot sustain there. My survival will become a biggest challenge. And then the last is an availability. Here, when you look at the availability issue, even though we have been debating about we will make housing for everyone. That's a very blanket statement. You can't make housing for everyone. Whether you take United Nations Sustainable Development Goal, out of the 17 goals, they talk about making housing for everyone as one of their main agenda. Whether you talk about the World Economic Forum, or we talk about the World Bank, or you talk about United Nations, everybody talking housing as one of the critical things that we would like to address. But that remain unaddressed for a simple reason. Housing is highly profit-oriented business. The real estate developers
Interesting.
look housing as a money-making machine.
Yeah.
Even though we all talk about a social impact ventures, there is a way, if you can, instead of upfronting all the money as a profit, can you make it as a sustainable profit? So you don't take all the profit on year one when you develop a product. So can we make it in the next 10 years, 50 years, 20 years? So that's where we decided to design our business model. So we will build it to rent and we'll stick on next to 20 years as a build it to rent community.
Okay.
We will keep it as a build it to rent community for next to 20 years. And we will never ever flip it till that time.
Yeah, that's an interesting explanation and shows the complexity
Yes.
of the issue as well. So, and tell me about the Homz communities, because they're interesting communities.
So when we came with this initial idea, like any other person, joined School for Housing Studies at Harvard, which publishes every year one of the critical rental housing reports. Then Berkeley School publishes one of the very interesting reports on the housing in the US market. And FHA, which is the Federal Housing Authority, and the HUD, they also publishes reports on the housing. All these people were initially talking, how do you make housing and affordable? That's what we also. Then we realized at some point of time, consumer is willing to compromise. They are not just looking at cheap homes. They don't want to say, anybody, I live in this community, but it's cheap. When it comes to housing, I always say people as a joke, when you ask somebody, are you settled? A settlement is linked to three things: a permanent job, a permanent home, and a permanent wife or a permanent husband. That means you are settled. Are you married? Yeah, I am settled. That's how it is, the settlement is. So settlement is linked to having a permanent nest. Now then we realized there is a need of understanding the emotional attachment to the housing space. So what we are building homes is a wellness-centric communities. And we call them as a holistic wellness-centric communities. When it comes to wellness, we talk about physical wellness, mental wellness, emotional wellness, psychological wellness, intellectual wellness, and spiritual wellness. It encompasses everything. That's what we, these communities are building, or communities which brings in holistic approach to those tenants.
Interesting. Okay, thank you so much for coming and explaining homes. Very interesting concept.
Thank you so much. Appreciate for having me here.
Yeah.